So what are the top three issues Democrats need to talk about?
Affordability, affordability, and affordability.
There are Democrats who plan to ride President Joe Biden's coattails off into the sunset for these midterms, but there are also Democrats who seem ready to get down and dirty with Republicans. Most strategists agree on one thing though. The Democratic Party sucks at messaging.
I don't know what the message is. Yeah. Legitimately, I do not, for the life of me, I don't know what the message is.
This is Julie Roginsky. She works to get Democrats elected. She thinks it's time for Dems to ditch the nice guy act.
Listen, I spent over a decade of my life as the Democratic voice of Fox News.
Joining me now, Julie Roginsky, who was brave enough to walk onto the set. And even when it's bad news for her candidate, she does as well. She's a Democratic strategist, Fox News contributor.
I know how the other side plays the game, and they do it very effectively. If you're going to take on this toxicity, then you better finish it, right? Like, don't bring a knife to a gunfight.
For her, Washington is no longer the statesman club. And although Democrats control all three branches of government, it's Republicans who seem to be controlling the game. Okay, so we get it. Democrats are struggling with messaging. And it's no secret. Republicans I've talked to have said the exact same thing.
In my opinion, the president needs to do a better job of taking control of the message and the narrative.
But is there a way for them to fix it? Julie thinks yes, and she gives 4 strategies that Democrats can take from the Republican playbook. Number 1, Julie thinks that Dems need a media mogul on their side. A mean one. Someone not only willing to broadcast their message 24/7, but also incredibly loyal to the party message.
Well, you need a Roger Ailes. I mean, I hate to say this, but you need a Roger Ailes.
Roger Ailes went from a media strategist to the creator of the most watched TV news channel, Fox News.
I don't need to turn on Sean Hannity to know what Sean Hannity is going to say to you tonight. Right. Rachel Maddow is incredibly smart, and every day she shows it. But by the time she gets to her point, we're in what's called the D block. By that point, Sean Hannity has already gone through 5 outrages where he stoked up his audience so much that they're ready to go march on, on the Capitol and do whatever they did on January 6th, right? Whereas we tend to overanalyze, we tend to overthink, we don't tend to viscerally address people's concerns and people's needs. We are focused way too much on what happened with Donald Trump when the average voter is not thinking about Donald Trump every day. I've said this before. And Ailes used to say this to me all the time. He used to take pride in this. He said, when you are on my air, you are the most watched Democrat in the country. What that basically means is that there is such a large group, a segment of people in this country watching something like Fox News who are not necessarily big Republicans. And in fact, I know people, including half of Fox News, who couldn't stand the sight of Donald Trump when he first ran. By the time Fox News was done with him 4 years later, he walks on water. It's not just because they were conditioned to believe that Donald Trump was the Messiah, it's that they were conditioned to believe what their favorite anchors were telling them.
Number 2, Democrats need to do more investing in the up-and-coming politicians. They need to think about the long game.
Set up a GO-PAC. I mean, set up a really effective entity that's going to really focus on these issues. Set up a Federalist Society that gets a pipeline going, a really effective, I mean, maybe they exist, but they're not that effective, right? A really effective Federalist Society that identifies prospective law students or prospective legal associates in law firms or think tanks and get them through the pipeline.
And kind of have like a long-term vision.
Because that's what the Federalist Society does. Yeah, that's what GO-PAC does. I mean, listen, my hat's off.
Have some patience.
My hat's off to them. Yeah. They set this up. Basically, this infrastructure began, if not with Barry Goldwater, certainly after Roe.
Right.
It's been going around for 50 years. Yeah. It took them 50 years, but they got it. The first time probably in the court's history that you're going to roll back rights for anybody. They did it. Yeah. I mean, my hat's off to them. So if you want to fight fire with fire, that's what you have to do. And you have to stop expecting that things are going to get better just because you're marching or because you're protesting or because you're going on MSNBC and ranting to, the same voters that are going to agree with you anyway. Start changing hearts and minds, and you have to do that at the grassroots granular level, and that's the most important thing the Democratic Party can do right now.
Number 3, no more Mr. Nice Guy, Miss Nice Gal. Enough with the moral high ground and get in the fight. When the GOP goes low, Julie thinks that Dems should flip the Michelle Obama script and go low too.
We can no longer play by these Marquis of Queensberry rules where we think that if only we can go back to the way things used to be where both parties can come to an accommodation. I don't know if you ever watched Sex and the City, but that great episode. Yeah.
Do I watch Sex and the City? No,
well, I remember that great episode of Sex and the City where somebody just, he's just not that into you.
I'm not going to sugarcoat it for you. He's just not that into you.
And so I keep saying, to President Biden, they're just not that into you. Is Mitch McConnell interested is he interested at all in compromise? He held open a Supreme Court seat for months, almost a year, completely in contradiction and contravening every kind of precedent that was set. And then, of course, the minute that there was a Supreme Court vacancy under a Republican president, rushed through his justice. So you can't compromise with people. The fever is not going to break.
Number 4, Julie thinks Dems need to start calling Republicans out by name.
And then you talk about President Biden going to Buffalo and calling out people for their replacement theory, but not by name. Well, why not? Elise Stefanik, why not? Her name's Elise Stefanik. That's what he's talking about. Her district's not far from Buffalo. Why not?
So I'll tell you why. I wrote, me and Jonathan Lemire wrote about this. We talked to the White House about this, and what they're saying is they don't want to bring these people up to the same level as the president.
But I will say to you that the people who need to be called out are the people who are peddling it, and his name is Tucker Carlson.
Those 4 tactics would mean a tectonic shift of the status quo in the Democratic Party. But some Dems have found success with calling out the other side. Pennsylvania Democratic Senate nominee John Fetterman is one of them.
Because John Fetterman was an incredibly effective communicator. I don't even know that people understand the substantive differences between Fetterman and Lamb. I just think that they understand that John Fetterman is not going to take any BS from anybody, that he's going to go out there, that he's going to say what he wants to say on behalf of his cohort, and he's not going to sit there and play defense or get into wonky policy discussions about why my tax bracket is better than your tax bracket. He's going to go out there and he's going to call things by their proper name. And I think that's what a lot of Democrats want. They want this called by its proper name.
Did you notice how she didn't mention one huge thing? Abortion. When Politico dropped the bombshell report on the Supreme Court's leaked draft, many thought this would be the catalyst Democrats needed to carry them to victory. But strategists are surprisingly warning against making Roe v. Wade the centerpiece of their message.
We can't make abortion so paramount when we have people running, people who are worried, as I said, about things that have nothing to do with abortion. I mean, I don't know how many people have the luxury in this country of waking up every single day and saying, oh my God, what happens if I can't get an abortion today? Oh my God, oh my God, my life. I mean, there are definitely people out there like that. But that's not the majority of people. The majority of people are waking up every day and saying, oh my God, I don't know, am I gonna be able to fill up my car today? What's gas today? Am I gonna be able to buy, my baby formula for my kid? I don't know if I'm gonna be able to get that. That's the difficulty, that's the problem. I'm being very blunt about it because I think, and listen, guilty as charged. I spent a very long time messaging on behalf of Democrats, and sometimes I've gotten it right and sometimes I've gotten it wrong, but I've gotten it wrong every single time when I've decided to sort of chase the shiny object and take my eye off the prize, which is that I stopped listening to what voters were telling me and started thinking that what pollsters told me or what my own beliefs of what I wanted people to do or what I wanted them to believe was more important than what they were telling me.
So how do you talk about affordability when you're getting the blame for it not being affordable?
Because you have to say, listen, as I said before, we just passed this almost $1 trillion infrastructure plan. If it weren't for me in this infrastructure plan, you wouldn't be able to have the road that you have now, or this bridge wouldn't be able to be built, and you wouldn't be able to drive to work, and half the time you wouldn't be able to get home to see your little kid's soccer game or whatever else you need to get home for. It's things like that. You need to talk to them concretely.